This Memorial Day weekend, we honor the men and women who died serving our country as we remember them. Many of our nation's veterans are struggling with a battle here at home. It's a major backlog at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Veterans' claims for benefits are buried, absolutely buried under a mountain of paperwork. And as the Veterans Affairs Secretary orders his department to work extra hours to get it all done, the latest figures show the backlog is currently at 873,680, with 584,308 of those claims pending for more than 4 months, 125 days. All right, how can that be? And how can this be fixed? Pete Hegseth joins us. He is the CEO of Concerned Veterans for America. You know, Pete, this is absolutely shameful. No veteran should ever be treated this way. It's outrageous. Why the backlog, and what kind of claims are we talking about here?
You're exactly right. It's a national embarrassment. Why the backlog? It's a calcified bureaucracy that's unaccountable. It's stuck in the 20th century pencil and paper age. Most is done on paper. Reviews take quite a long time. And the bureaucracy, there's very little accountability. Whether a process is or a claim is processed faster or slower isn't reflected in the pay an employee gets or whether they're hired and fired. That's why our organization has called for Secretary Shinseki to step down, because at some point results have to matter, and he hasn't fired anyone. And a lot of it's the deadwood, the bureaucracy underneath that prevents reform. And we're saying at some point we got to start getting at that so that we're customer service based as opposed to a straight bureaucracy.
All right, let me play a soundbite from General Shinseki on his behalf. Here's what he says. Take a listen.
We all agree that veterans wait too long to receive the benefits they've earned. This is not and has never been acceptable to VA or to Veterans Benefits Administration, where 52% of our workforce are veterans themselves. With the President's leadership and the support of the Congress, we are aggressively executing a plan that we have put together to fix this decades-old problem and eliminate the backlog, as we have indicated, in 2015. And by that, I mean no claim being processed longer than 125 days, and our quality of performance at 98% or better. We know much more needs to be done.
Yeah, I'm kind of laughing because that's just preposterous. So in other words, veterans are going to have to wait for 2 years so that at that time they'll only have to wait 4 months. I mean, that's ludicrous, isn't it?
Sure. And this is, and Greg, this is not the first time we've heard wait another year. So it's 2015 now, but before it was 2012 and before it was 2010. So we've heard promises from VA before. Listen, General Shinseki, now Secretary Shinseki, is an incredible, honorable man who's done wonderful things for this country in a uniform and out. However, at this point, 5 years in, any commander who's been at the helm for 5 years and has failed in the battlefield is going to get fired. And I think as younger veterans come in and look at a system that is so stuck in bureaucracy, unable to reform itself, that's why we're up in arms about this, doing everything we can, created millionvetbacklog.com, where we started a petition to the White House to say, we've got to fix this. The private sector has tools that teach us how to process complex claims in a timely and accurate way. Why don't we learn from that, quit making excuses, and serve the veterans that deserve it?
They're trying to move to automated digital processing of claims. But look, he started that about 4 years ago, right? I mean, it doesn't take that long to transition. We know that, right?
Well, it doesn't have to take that long. Again, that's where the bureaucracy that's unwilling to reform itself comes into play. We spent $500 million on a system to migrate claims. Today, 3% of those claims are done online. The remainder are on paper. So if you can't even migrate claims to the digital age, it becomes that much more difficult to speed up a process where there's no incentive to do so.
So fire Shinseki, and again, I have great admiration for him as well, but your argument is fire Shinseki. In fact, you have a petition to do that, and you got some members of Congress who want to do that. But what else? I mean, other than firing him, then what?
Well, the Secretary's right to point out this is not a problem exclusive to this administration. Now, it has grown by 2,000% since 2009. They've gotten 40% more dollars since 2009. So this is not a funding problem. I'll tell you what it isn't due. We've just thrown more money at this problem for years, and it hasn't gotten better. We're talking real systemic reform at the culture level of VA, holding employees at every tier accountable for performance. If you don't make a standard, you're fired. If you exceed a standard, you get merit pay. Yeah. Right now, executives have been getting merit pay as the backlog grows. That is not accountability. So it's systemic reform throughout the administration is what needs to happen.
Yeah. Shinseki said it would get better. It has only grown worse. And it's tragic for all of these veterans to whom we owe so much in our lives. All right, Pete Hegseth, best of luck to you. Let us know how it's going, if you will. We'll do another segment on it. Hopefully something can be done. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Speaking of the brave and